I was wrong in doing what I did.
No! Are you listening?
Sean here, and I thought I would talk about a few of the predators that just make me so angry. Number one, period, hands down, Victor Wells. Now, Victor's the guy that walked in and Chris confronted him, and I believe he had a bottle of alcohol and he had a camera. Now, Chris started questioning him about the chat and about her age. She said she was 12. Her picture looked 12. Her profile said she was 12. And what was Victor's response? Well, you know, people lie about their age all the time on the internet. You know, how do I know she's 12? He should be asking the reverse. How do I know she's 18? I've never met a guy who thinks this way, who would be willing to say, well, yeah, I mean, I know she looks 12, and she could have faked your profile picture. She said she's 12, but she could have been lying. Well, her profile said she was 12. Yeah, but you can fake that. What 12-year-old's gonna go on the internet and don't you have to be a certain age? He's so dumb and disgusting. Finally, when all else failed, he went to, it was all roll chat. Which leads me to another argument. Why are you fantasizing about a 12-year-old, you disgusting pig? When adults have a schoolgirl fetish, it's usually a grown woman wearing a skimpy little outfit. Something like that really accentuates her body. They're not thinking, hopefully, that she's 12 years old and still in school. I've known one couple that role-played that she was a high school student and he was a teacher, and she was coming on to him because they loved the song, Please Don't Stand So Close to Me. I mean, that was as far as I've gone. But this guy, man, to even think that an argument with the judge would be, well, you know, I thought it was all role-play. And as the judge looks at him and goes, you gotta be shitting me. That's who's on the screen right now, is Victor Wells. I have no words for this guy. Watching him makes me angrier than when I watched Lauren for the first time. One kiss first. Lauren seemed like such a harmless dude. But Victor, there was nothing harmless about him. He was a predator and brought a camera because I thought she wanted pics for her profile. Where does it say that in here, Victor? Well, that's what I thought. You know, I assumed that's what you wanted. If that's your only defense, you're done. Second guy that really makes me angry, and he shouldn't, is Conrad, the assistant district attorney, or whatever title he had. The guy that killed himself. This guy makes me mad for a few reasons. He showed what kind of privilege, and I'm talking about white privilege or this, what kind of privilege titles bring you. Who you know brings you. Because of him, higher-ups now need to be notified whenever they're doing these investigations. I mentioned this before. Because they realize, holy crap, we are targets. We are definitely targets now. And with all of the stories and allegations, people going missing, you know, when they bring up these allegations, it's not hard to believe that there's not an epidemic in positions of power. I mean, Corey Haim and Corey Feldman, for God's sake. The B2K and all of them coming out and talking about what they had to do to get a contract when they were underage. All of these are allegations. I'm not saying they're true. But because of him, higher-ups, they could only go... Now they could only... There's Perverted Justice and NBC and whoever else, the Sheriff's Department, they could only go to a certain level. Because I guarantee you, if they recognized any names that were higher up, Sheriff's Department was going to squash that. Now, I know I'm getting kind of off on a tangent, but this is one of the reasons I hate this guy. And the fact that his family blamed NBC for his actions, blamed Perverted Justice, the Sheriff's Department, blamed everybody that was involved. It makes you just angry to know that this guy could have just said, you know what, I didn't do it. I mean, he didn't use his picture. He used the picture of a college guy. I mean, he could have said he was hacked. I'm sure in his position, they would have gone along with it. Oh, yeah, well, Conrad, that's obviously must have what happened, so we're gonna let you go. I don't know all that went into that, but I can tell you it makes me angry. Because a lot of the rats, they got off the ship, and they didn't drown. They made it to shore. They were able to escape. He took the coward's way out. He did. All he had to do was face justice, but he couldn't take the shame. So he offed himself. It's unbelievable, man. Unbelievable that anyone would blame anyone but the guy. Well, anyone will blame anyone. Anyone would blame someone else besides the guy, besides Conrad. Really frustrates me. It really just makes me want to just punch a hole in the wall. That this guy became the victim. Another guy I mentioned, the one guy I want to talk about is the oil drill guy. The, yes, Chris, I was going to wait for her mom to come home. He was one of the first people on the show to really go into the Jesus thing. To really try to use his Christianity as a shield. And we know that no matter what religion you are, they exist everywhere. And it is a shield. I could never do that. That may have worked back in the 40s and earlier, He's a good Christian man. He would never do that. But it doesn't work. It didn't work when this happened. He's the guy who showed up. There was a pool table. I wish I could remember which one this is. There was a pool table. He sits at the bar, and he's talking to this girl, and Chris walks out. And you could see it on his face. He's like, oh, crap. Well, let me turn on my southern charm. Chris starts talking to him, and he starts saying he was going to wait for her mom to come home. And he's, well, yes, sir. Yes, sir, I was. And then he starts talking about being a Christian man. Yes, sir, I am a faithful man. I could never do anything like this. All of those guys, I think it was Texas, probably, all of those guys got off scot-free. Well, most of them. And so what did this smart man do? What did this genius do? Instead of learning his lesson, he did it again and got 25 years. He deserved every single second of it. Imagine risking for what? I mean, for this guy, probably what, 5 to 10 minutes of sex with a fantasy, disgusting fantasy, for 25 years of your life gone and every relationship you've ever had ruined? Those people make me angry. They affect everyone else around them, not just themselves, but everyone else around them. So he got what he deserved. And he still frustrates me to think that there are guys out there like this. One that may not surprise anyone. Of course, Dan, I think his name's Dan Allen. He had a prior, probably Lauren Armstrong level stalking and aggression or some kind of violent charge. But you could tell when he came in, he put on his best, I don't want to give you an interview. He put on his little act. A lot like Lauren does. But Lauren's fuse is a little bit longer because he knows he has to put in more work. First of all, a fat balding dude like him with gray hair rolls up in a house thinking a young girl's gonna want a piece of that. Secondly, to come up with all that crap about thinking she wasn't really this age and it was basically the same thing as Victor. But it was at the end, I'll shove that camera down your throat when you see it come out. You see who he really is. That's what I hate him for. He gets in there. That young girl says no. Well, come on, we should do this. The young girl says no. Well, come on, you should do it. We're going to do this whether you like it or not. And I say that, I'm telling you, I knew a couple. The wife, the guy was a cuck, wife liked to sleep with other people. Well, they went down and she didn't feel comfortable with this guy. So they left and he was furious. So he started trying to blackmail them for a certain amount of money because he had to take off work and he was going to do all this violent stuff. He had somebody else threatening them. He ended up getting in big trouble. But there are people out, this is a grown woman. Imagine a young girl, doesn't really know how to handle life situations. She's getting a feeling of danger, but what does she do? You know, she's questioning herself. What do I do? And she's got this big, imposing, angry, violent man telling her, take your clothes off or I'm going to take them off for you. Because we know that that's what would have happened. He wouldn't have left there without what he wanted. He seems like that kind of guy. Anybody who would stalk anybody, well, there you go. That's all the proof you need. And Dan is a big piece of shit. Huge piece of shit. Piece of shit. Couldn't even say it like Lauren. But you know what I'm saying. Let's talk about Ernest Timmons' Joker. Shows up to the house. He's my favorite, by the way. When he said, you ever see those TV shows? No, sir. Well, you're about to be on one. And they pan to his face, and the sweat is pouring down, and he's got that look of, oh, what is it? What am I about to be hit with? And he's just sitting there. I'm Chris Hansen. And Chris immediately gets a stiffy. I'm Chris Hansen. I think he gets upset when they don't recognize him. Anyway, back on topic. Joker starts telling him that some guy he didn't know, on base, that he just met, said, hey, go to this house, take a camera, for what reason? And he said, I don't know. To think that you would be able to say, he's a friend, okay? If somebody's a friend, if you would have said a buddy that you've known for a couple of days, maybe I would have believed it. Maybe. Because in military, oh, that's my buddy. You know, my buddy over there said, but to call somebody a friend and say, oh, my friend told me, you just met on the base, you don't know his name, but he's your friend. Sends him over there with a camera. Doesn't know why. But yet, as soon as he walks in, he tells the girl, can we go upstairs for a few minutes? This guy was so intent on producing CP that he didn't even want to talk. He didn't want to do anything. He wanted to go upstairs. He was actually frustrated because she wanted to get to know him rather than, hey, I'm Bob, let's go upstairs. He didn't even introduce himself. Hey, I'm Ernest. It was nice to talk to you, whatever. He comes in and he's looking around. He's all nervous and he wants to get upstairs. And this asshole actually had pictures of his family on the camera. And I assure you, looking at that dude, that was a camera he got from work. He had borrowed it from work. I mean, I have no doubt looking at him. And then he starts crying. Crying like a little bitch after he gets busted for doing what he's doing. The lies. Refusing to own up to it. Constantly saying, I don't know why I'm here. And so I ask you, would you ever, under any circumstances, meet somebody, not know them, not even remember their name? They say, hey, go take a camera to this location. You show up and there's a young girl. You start having a conversation with them. And then you say, oh, I got an idea while I'm here. Let's go upstairs because we're going off what he said, his story. He would just immediately say, hey, I got a good idea now that I know you're underage. Let's go upstairs with this camera. I mean, it makes zero sense. And somebody who would go through all the trouble to lie like that, somebody who just wanted to run upstairs, do their business and leave, these guys just make me so angry. You know, Anthony Palumbo's my favorite. Yeah, because it was dark. I didn't want to drive in the dark. Yeah, I had beer. I love that guy so much. I'm not gay or anything. You know the whole deal. And I will say this about Anthony. I felt really bad because not only was he exposed as a pedo, but he was exposed as gay to the world. And I know from an Italian family, you know, hey, he's a backwards mechanic. I mentioned that before, you know. That's not accepted in traditional Italian family. And by all accounts, this dude is from a straight Italian family. Caring for his ailing whatever. A lot of them care for their ailing mother, care for their ailing father. I don't know. But now you've taken that away from him. I don't really get angry at Jerry Wayne, Jimmy Wayne, Martin's psychosis. Well, that guy. There's something wrong with him, man. Jean-Pierre. Mr. Weary, or whatever the hell his name is, because he has aliases. I'll never understand the bullshit. Scott Pedersen. You know, just showing up to a house that you've never been to, riding a bus, showing up because you heard that there might be a job way, way, way across town. The Amazing Race. You came all the way across the world to get there. Come in, whistle, and it's just creepy, man. This guy just rolled into the house, strolled into there, looking nasty, looking dirty, just gross. And then goes into this John Pedersen, Scott Pedersen, says the name wrong, goes into this elaborate story, and all of this is why he makes me mad. He put all of that effort into this bullshit story instead of just admitting to it and trying to get the hell out of there, because that's the kind of guy I assumed he was, looking at him like he'd want to get out of there as quickly as possible, or figure a way to get out of there and then be able to come back before, you know, be able to come back and sleep once they've gone, and use that as that was pretty exciting, wasn't it? Now there are others that I'm not even going to get into right now, because I'm going to do a part 2 of this shit. But this guy, the fact that he would go that distance, spend all of that time with the bullshit lie, keep the lie going, looking like an absolute creep, another guy who wouldn't take no for an answer. Making up this story of, I think he said, I've got a black girlfriend, like that's gonna help his case, like, well, you know, my girlfriend, and she's black. That'll add some credibility. That'll pull it. See, I didn't just lie about having a girlfriend. Now I threw an ethnicity in there. Fucking genius. I am a fucking god. Hate him. Absolutely can't stand that son of a bitch. I can't even say it like Lauren. That son of a bitch. And he is locked up. Now, did I think his sentence was a little crazy? Oh my God, yes I did. But 3 strikes, homie. 3 strikes. And what's funny is, he's in a state where teachers can take kids aside, groom the shit out of them. Now, I think, in my opinion, with the justices they have now, he wouldn't have gotten that very lengthy sentence. It would have been reduced, because they're sympathetic to, 2 of them are sympathetic to pedos. So he might have gotten a lesser sentence. But, you know, I think it was something like, what, 50 years, or even if it was 30 years, I mean, whoa. But then again, 3rd time's the charm, homie. But I know he had some stuff when he was younger, and it was like sexual assault, I think. I think it ended up, somebody figured it out that it was sexual assault. And he's home alone with what he thinks is a young boy. So yes, he pisses me off, because I know what he's capable of. We all know what he's capable of. And that boy wouldn't have been safe, even if it was consensual. Because let's say these kids, they consented. You know what? I want to do this. Let's just do this. I want to try it out. And they were done. They didn't like it. But these guys, they're like, well, I got this girl. I'm going to leave here in 3 hours. I better do as much as possible. Even if they said no on the 2nd time, the guys wouldn't have been satisfied with the first. They would have wanted more. They would have wanted them to do more. Let's get all of my fantasies out of the way now. But I don't think they could have gotten enough to where they would have stopped. I think they would have gone until the girl was basically screaming, and then they would have, or a boy, and they would have left there. And finally, I want to talk about Twitchy Robert. Don't even care about his last name. Peeks in the curtain, comes in with his thin Gomez, what's his name? Gomez Adams, comes in with that mustache, twitching, has a prior offense, and I think he was still to be sentenced. Didn't learn anything. Started trying to reason out that it was okay to chat with the boy, as long as, just try to steer away from something sexual. And that's Lauren's whole thought. He knew he shouldn't have been doing it, and he was having an inner monologue, and the one side won out. It was stronger. It said, you need to do this, This is your only chance at finding somebody more inexperienced than you are and finally having sex. This guy Robert, though, he had this planned out. 68-year-old claiming he was 28. A guy who had been obviously grooming this kid. The things he was talking about. Dressing up like a woman. I mean, this is to a kid. I'm not talking about dressing up like a woman. But this is to a child. A child talking about all these kinks that he has. He likes to dress up like a woman while he's getting plowed. You can do me. Things like that. Sharing things that turn him on with the kid. It wasn't just, let's get together and experiment. It was, let me tell you about all of these things that I do with other consenting adults that I'm now going to try to get you to consent to. I don't know if any of you have ever known someone who's got, well, now on TikTok they have channels for youth attracted persons. Libs of TikTok points it out all the time. But you've got these youth attracted people. I've never known anyone like that. The weirdest person I've ever known liked people 20 years older than him or more. Had a 58-year-old girlfriend. He was 25. Crazy. But he loved it. He loved the whole mother figure, man. I don't know what it was. Or grandmother figure. But this guy could have been his grandfather. And he's talking to him about all of this stuff. He'd be like, what, 54 years older, 55 years older than this kid? 55 years, just difference in sexual experience. Kids that age, especially at the day and time, and if the kid was gay, you don't come out. It was kind of dangerous back then. It wasn't accepted. So chances are you wouldn't have had a boyfriend openly. You would have had to hide it. But this guy, being a consenting adult, he can just do whatever the hell he wants. So this kid's first real gay experience was going to be with this 68-year-old, which is how old I think he was, this 68-year-old creep, pervert. And why he makes me so angry is because he thought it was okay. He didn't realize that first time for him should be exciting, nervous. You both should be experiencing it at the same time. Doesn't matter if the other boy has done more. You're experiencing it with someone who's feeling the same level of emotions. I mean, most of us adults, we can split our lust from love. I hear couples talk about it. How sometimes they make love, and sometimes they just go at it like frickin' dogs in heat, man. And they're just slamming against the wall. And anyway, enough about my life. No, I'm just kidding. But you hear about that. This kid, man, it's going to be love for him because those emotions intertwine. And this 68-year-old disgusting pervert is going to try to corrupt this kid. And his first memory is not only going to be filled with a little bit of shame because of the acceptance of gay culture back then, but it's going to be filled with shame because it was with a 68-year-old man in a dress. That's his first time. That was his first experience. Not with an age-appropriate kid, but with a 68-year-old man. Oh my God. The only solace I can take is I believe he's dead, and he's not walking this earth anymore. Alright, rage subsided. That's part 1. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, this